Welcome to the Space Podcast series, Stories of Change. This is an AI-narrated podcast series inspired by authentic curriculum redesign cases. In each episode, we explore how educators are rethinking teaching and learning to build stronger connections between universities, students, and society.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, and today we're exploring a curriculum redesign journey within engineering education that focused on strengthening connections between academic learning and the professional world. I'll be speaking with one of the redesign case holders about how a course in strategic management moved beyond theoretical case studies and began engaging directly with local companies, creating learning experiences that felt more relevant, collaborative, and connected to real professional practice. When people talk about community-engaged learning, it can sometimes sound inspiring, but also slightly optional. Something extra you might add if there's enough time or resources available. Was that part of the thinking behind this redesign?
Yes, very much so. That feeling was actually one of the starting points for us. We realised that engagement with the professional world shouldn't sit outside the curriculum as an additional activity. Instead, we wanted it to become part of how students experience learning itself, something that gives meaning and coherence to the course.
And what was happening in the course before the redesign?
The course itself was already academically strong and well-structured. Students understood the concepts and theoretical frameworks, but there was still a sense of distance between the classroom and the realities they would encounter professionally. Many students understood what they were learning, but not always why it mattered in practice.
So the redesign was really about closing that gap between theory and professional reality?
Exactly. One of the main changes was introducing collaboration with local companies directly into the learning process. Rather than working only with hypothetical business cases, students visited companies, interacted with professionals, and explored real strategic challenges connected to their final course assignments.
That sounds like a significant shift in the way students engaged with the subject matter. What difference did that make in practice?
The impact was immediate. Students became much more motivated and engaged because the learning suddenly felt concrete and contextual. Strategy stopped being something abstract, discussed only in lectures, and became something connected to real organizations, real decisions, and real challenges.
I imagine, though, that bringing companies into a strategic management course also introduced some complications.
Yes, definitely. Strategic management often involves sensitive information, and understandably, companies aren't always comfortable sharing internal strategies or business details. One of the biggest challenges was finding organizations willing to participate, while also deciding what level of information could realistically and ethically be shared with students.
So how did you navigate that tension between openness and confidentiality?
What really helped was changing our perspective. Instead of searching for perfect business cases with complete transparency, we focused more on learning through processes rather than confidential details. We aligned company visits carefully with the course objectives, structured the assignments thoughtfully, and built trust gradually with participating organizations.
It sounds as though relationship building became just as important as curriculum design itself.
Absolutely. Community-engaged learning depends heavily on trust and long-term collaboration. The redesign reminded us that partnerships don't happen automatically. They require communication, flexibility, and mutual understanding between universities and external organizations.
I understand the co-learning environment within the space project also supported the redesign process?
Yes, very much so. The learning circles gave us practical inspiration, but perhaps more importantly, reassurance. Hearing how colleagues in other contexts dealt with similar challenges helped us stop seeing obstacles as failures and start seeing them as part of the design process itself.
And beyond the students, what kind of wider impact did the redesign have?
The benefits extended beyond the classroom. Participating companies strengthened their relationships with the university and gained opportunities to connect with students early on. At the same time, teaching staff felt renewed motivation and a stronger sense that teaching, research, and societal engagement could genuinely reinforce one another.
And looking ahead, what do you feel are the next steps for this kind of work?
One important challenge will be expanding the network of participating companies and sustaining those relationships over time. because ultimately, community-engaged learning depends on human relationships, and relationships require ongoing care and commitment.
Finally, looking back on the redesign journey as a whole, what would you say has been the biggest lesson?
Probably that meaningful curriculum redesign isn't about adding more content or complexity. It's about creating coherence, aligning learning with real societal contexts, and being willing to work through uncertainty and complexity collaboratively.
A thoughtful reminder that when students begin to see how their learning connects to society and professional life, education becomes something far more meaningful than a single course.
This story is based on real experiences from curriculum redesign projects run under the Erasmus Plus Space Project. More information about the cases and the Space Project can be found on the website www.community-engagement.eu.